Hey Chris, what's up?
Hey man, you know how you're going to do that top 10 trick-taking games of 2023 during the Winter Spectacular?
Yeah?
And how you're always yammering on and on and on about that whole trick-taking renaissance thing you say is going on?
Yeah?
So hear me out on this idea. It'll look great.
Okay. Yeah.
Free 2-day shipping and everything. I'm just going to have it sent right to your door, all right?
Oh, yeah. I'll talk to you later. Yeah, hey Chris, I want to talk to you about this package that showed up at my house.
Oh great, you got the puffy shirt? Hey, ever since you agreed to wear it during your top 10 list, sales have been skyrocketing. Gamers everywhere are buying it.
Ever since I said what?
Ever since you said you'd wear the puffy shirt during your top 10 list. I told trick-taking enthusiasts everywhere. They're buying it up, man, through the Amazon affiliate link, boutique stores, everywhere.
I agreed to this.
Yeah.
When did I do that?
On the phone, like 2 days ago.
I wasn't actually listening to you. I just kept saying, yeah, sure, because I wanted you to stop talking.
Did you get the floppy hat too?
I can't wear this on the channel.
Well, you gotta wear it now. I mean, all the trick-taking people, Taylor Rayners, Sai Beppu, they're gonna be wearing it. It's because you started the trend of this Renaissance man look.
But I don't want to be a Renaissance man. Hey there, everybody. It's Mike DiLisio. Well, I hope you excuse my wardrobe choice. That outfit wasn't working for me. So, I have said recently that there is a trick-taking renaissance going around. We joke about it a bit, but I am serious. I really do think that a lot of innovation has taken place in the trick-taking realm over the last several years. And so, there are more and more trick-taking games getting released, at least it seems like to me. And so this is going to be my top 10 trick-taking games that were released in this year. Let's just go ahead and get started. My number 10 is Tricky Time Crisis. This is what is known as a must-not-follow game, where every card that gets played into a trick has to be of a different suit. And in this game, one of the suits is a superhero suit, and the other ones are all kind of villain suits. So essentially, this becomes a one versus many trick-taking game, but the one changes, or could potentially change over every round. If you're the villain, you want to have a higher value than the total sum of your villains, and vice versa if you're the villains. There's some other really neat little twists to it, and some really cute superhero art. Tricky Time Crisis is a very interesting game and a lot of fun. That's why it's my number 10. Number 9 is Hipparchus, which is a 2-player only game, and it's a trick-taking game, but it also has kind of the card shedding element where you're trying to get rid of all the cards in your hand. And in this game, there are 3 suits. There's the sun, the moon, and the earth. And you're going to have cards as they're dealt to you have to stay in the same order that they were. You can't rearrange your cards. You'll see this in something like Scout or even Bonanza, which isn't a trick-taking game. But in this game, when you have kind of 2 cards in a row, twins of a card, or 3 cards of the same suit, triplets, you can't break those up. You have to play the twins as twins and the triplets as triplets. And so when somebody plays out a card or a set of cards, if you can, you have to follow with that same suit, but with a different number of cards. And so it leads to some very interesting kind of thinking, because it's a 2-player only game and you kind of know the distribution of cards, but you don't know the orientation in their hands. Leads to some really clever and thinky gameplay. And the scoring has a really neat twist too, where you're scoring based on the tricks that your opponent played or collected. So, very cool game, Hipparchus. At number 8 is 12 Chip Trick. I'm counting this as a 2023 release because the earlier version had slightly different rules and it was a very small print run. So 12 Chip Trick is a one where you've got poker chips instead of cards. There are 12 of them. And half of them are red and half of them are black, and the values on them are as follows. The 4 through 9 are your red chips, the 1 to 3 and the 10 to 12 are your black chips, okay? And so you play these chips out in front of you. Everyone plays them face up, and whoever has the highest chip is going to win that trick. But if there's a red chip out there, they have to claim that one as their scoring chip first. Whichever chips aren't claimed, everyone takes them back into their hand. So the one that you claim won't be played again, and the round is going to end when everyone has a combination of either 4 chips in hand or on the table. So everyone's going to have 4 chips, and you're trying to have highest without busting, which is 21. Really, really clever game. Super simple, but a lot of decisions hidden underneath there. That's 12-chip trick. My number 7 is, I want to get it right, 10 tricks later. I almost said 12. My number 7 is 10 tricks later, which is alluding to a zombie film called, I believe, 10 Days Later. And it's a zombie-themed game. Very interesting. You've got different suits. You've got some survivor suits, which are in different colors, and then you've got a zombie suit, which is one color. And so what you're trying to do is you are trying to play tricks in such a way, play cards in such a way that you are getting survivors, and you've got a little barricade thing in front of you. And so when you win survivors in tricks, they go to the top of this barricade, which means that they are susceptible to being eaten by zombies. If you have to collect a zombie, its value has to be lower than the survivors in your row, or else they get eaten, they get wiped away. So you're trying to get those survivors from above in front of the barricade, which is above, to below it so that you have them safely there for scoring at the end of the round. The way you do that essentially is by losing tricks. So you gain survivors by winning tricks, but they're susceptible to zombies. When you lose tricks, you're going to be moving up a little meter that is on that barricade that allows you to move survivors of that value or lower below. Really interesting kind of flow to the game and pacing where you're trying to almost alternate winning and losing tricks to get survivors and then move them down. Really interesting game. Number 6 is Jekyll and Hyde versus Scotland Yard, which is a 2-player cooperative game with limited communication. It also has story elements where you're playing through different chapters that have different conditions in them. All right. So you essentially are playing as dual sides of this psyche. One player is playing as Dr. Jekyll, the other player is playing as Hyde, and then you've got what's known as a city deck, which is basically Scotland Yard, who is trying to chase you down. And so you have to play tricks in such a way that the difference in the tricks is going to be, between Jekyll and Hyde, is going to be how far forward they move, in most cases. But again, the scenarios, the chapters change things up. But the bottom line is that to win, you have to end on a final spot exactly before getting caught by Scotland Yard. Really cool and interesting and unique 2-player cooperative trick-taking game. Jekyll and Hyde versus Scotland Yard. My number 5 is Stich für Stich, if I'm pronouncing that even close to correctly, which I believe means stitch by stitch. This is a trick-taking deduction game. Yes, what an odd combination, but it really, really works well. In this game, you have what are known as sleuths, and I'm trying to remember the name of the other person, but basically the game master for that round, okay? And, the sleuth and the culprit. Yes. So what you're trying to do is you are playing cards into a trick. And it's the confidant. That's what their name is. The confidant, is the one that will tell the people that played cards into the trick which card is the strongest, but they don't tell them why. And so there are kind of rules, hierarchies to kind of determine what is trump and what isn't trump, what might be stronger, because you've got either people. I'm sure there's different names for them, and weapons, and there's a different hierarchy of strength there. So for each round, the confidant is the one that knows who the killer and the weapon is, and everyone else is trying to deduce that. So it's not a cooperative game. The sleuths are trying to be the first one to solve it, and they'll get more points. And the confidant gets more points the longer it takes the sleuths to solve the crime. And so the game ends when every player has had a chance to be the confidant. Really interesting and works surprisingly well. Number 4 is Lunar, which just came out towards the end of this year, although it is a re-implementation of an earlier game. Lunar is a 2 or 4 player trick-taking game done in teams. To me, this is really a 4-player game, but the 2-player game is interesting. 4-player to me is where it's at. So in Lunar, what you're doing is you'll get dealt a number of cards, and you're going to be passing some cards to your teammate, and that's really the only communication you can have with them, are the cards that you pass them. And then, before the round begins, the players are going to be choosing which suit is trump by eliminating all the suits until one is left, and that will be the trump suit. So people, the players around the table are going to be choosing trump, passing cards, and then one player in the team is going to be playing the suit, and the other player is going to be playing the number. And you can't say anything. You just are trying to give information based upon what you're playing. And so if you're the leader of your team, you don't know whether your teammate wants you to be playing the number or the suit necessarily. And so it can be just agonizing. Such a clever game, very quiet around the table, very intense feeling, but I love it. That's Lunar. Number 3 is Savage Bowl trick-taking game, which has a ridiculous theme of these kind of kaijus that are playing some type of a soccer, rugby, some type of game. Just know that you've got a referee that has a yellow card. And so that's kind of the hook of the game, is that it's played in 2 halves, much like a game often is, a match. And in the first half, you don't want to be well, depending on what cards you have, sometimes you do want to get rid of a card. If you are the highest card in the first half of the game, you get a yellow card, which means that you sit out the next trick, okay, because you played too aggressively. And so that happens for the first round. And then in the second half, you've got still what cards you had, but now you're playing by standard trick-taking rules. And you're trying to win a particular number of tricks per round to be able to score. And the little twist of 2 halves, first half, second highest win, second half, highest wins, is just so unique and interesting. And the look of the game is really fun, very kind of silly and over-the-top garish. But I've come back to this game over and over again. I really like Savage Bowl, trick-taking game. My number 2 is Sail, which is another 2-player limited communication game, okay? And so in Sail, what you are trying to do, and this also has a situation where you're passing cards to your teammate. So in this one, you're trying to move a boat from one side of a modular map that has a bunch of different obstacles and things put on it, and sometimes boons if you're playing with some of the expansion stuff. And you're trying to get it to one of 3 ending spots. And you're doing this by playing tricks. And whoever wins a trick is going to be moving the boat forward in their direction, either up or down. The way that the map is set up, it's going to be either moving forward, up or down. And so you're trying to navigate this ship across while avoiding, little obstacles like islands in the way. You're getting attacked by a kraken. And so the cards you play are going to allow you to either weaken the kraken by attacking them or move forward. They've got a special kind of mermaid suit where if you play 2 mermaids, you move straight forward, which is a more efficient way. Very clever game with beautiful art and production. The art by Weberson Santiago. Sail is just a really solid game. It's also a re-implementation of an earlier Japanese game, but been some pretty significant changes. My number 1 trick-taking game of 2023 is called King's Trick Takers. And this is kind of a iteration from an earlier series of trick-taking games called just Trick Takers. And it's still going on, this series of games. King's Trick Takers is related, but it's its own unique game. And in this game, you're going to be playing 3 rounds. At the beginning of the game, every player is going to be drafting a kind of face cards, king, queen, and jack of a particular suit. Okay, and you're going to keep that throughout the game. Gives you some different kind of abilities and such. But every round, you're also going to be, in addition to having those face cards, you're going to be drafting characters, okay? And these characters all have some special and very kind of wacky abilities that break traditional trick-taking rules. And so you're going to be drafting 3 of these characters. You're going to be choosing 2 of them to place face up, which means that their powers are active, and the other one you play face down, which is a bidding mechanism. And so with 2 of the cards, you're playing them for their powers, and then 1 card is how many tricks you feel like you're going to be winning for that round. And then you play cards utilizing the powers of your characters. It is a heavy trick-taking game. This is definitely not one for people who are unfamiliar or uncomfortable with trick-taking games, but this feels so unlike any other trick-taking game I've ever played that not only is it my #1 for this year, but it is very high in my all-time trick-taking games. It's just really, really a special game. So that is King's Trick Takers, my #1 from 2023. All right, well, hopefully that gives you an idea of some of these games. Hopefully some of them are new to you, so you can maybe check out which ones sound interesting, or maybe you've played these and you have others you want to suggest. I'd love to hear them. Really quickly, I do want to state that there are a couple of games that I didn't count for inclusion, although they probably would have been on the list. If not, that is Seas of Strife, which is a remake of Texas Showdown, and while that wasn't available in some parts of the world, I felt like I just didn't want to put it on the list because it's the same game. And the other one is Hund, which is a remake of a game called Ebis that came out a number of years ago. Again, I almost put that on this list because there have been some little changes, but I decided not to. All right, that's going to do it for me. This is Mike DiLisio coming to you from the Dice Tower.